Hey everyone, Emil here with the usual pre-show business. There's a lot to talk about this week, so let me dive right in. I was on episode 5 of Maka and Shep, the podcasting special with Homie and the Dude, Tyler from Magic Missile and Ellie from Dice Drop. And it was an amazing discussion about everything podcasting and role-playing in podcasting and TTRPGs in general. Amazing. Go check that out, definitely. That is out now, and you can check that out under the Check These Out podcast page. Just type Check These Out into Spotify or Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to podcasts. Again, what would be a pre-show of DoubleDM without Why Your World Matters? It's coming in around 1 or 2 weeks on this podcast for you. I still have to fiddle a little bit with the audio, but it's nearly done. Then we would also like to divert your eyes to the Caltrop Core, an elegant rule-slide RPG skeleton by Titanomachy RPG, Maps and Quests, and Eli from Mayday Roleplay. And if you know us, these names should also mean something to you. All three are great friends of the show, and Caltrop Core is amazing. What they did with that is chef's kiss. I already have an idea myself with this, which I won't be talking about. Then with that, there are only 2 things left for me to do. 1, inform you that you can book ad slots on episodes of this show. For that, just direct message us on Twitter and also ask you to give us a nice review on any podcasting platform to get the name of the show out there and in front of more people. Thank you, and with that, have fun with episode 37, Progression.
Is it my turn to introduce?
I don't know.
I think it is.
I think we take that as the introduction. Hello, everyone!
Hello! Yeah, and welcome to DoubleDM Podcast, to episode 37. With me, as usual, is Emil. How are you today?
I am doing fine.
Is there any specific reason?
Just in general, really.
That's always a good base mood, I think. Doing fine is always a good base. You can expand on that and all that. So what happened in your week?
Yeah, for me, not much, I would say. No, actually not much. It's the last week before university starts for me again, so I'm living life right now.
Enjoying it as long as you can.
8 a.m. classes on Monday. I love it.
Yeah, I feel that. Same here.
Oh.
Yeah. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. All live, and Tuesday and Thursday is not live, but so I can watch it whenever I want.
Oh, yeah. But I think I have Monday 8:30 to 10, Friday 12 to 14, and that's it when it comes to in presence.
I see, yeah.
Like the rest is online, I think. I would still have to actually think, because there are some things that only get scheduled like in 2 weeks' time or something that may also be in person or not. I don't know. I am hoping that we record this on a Thursday, that tomorrow I have a session. We don't know yet because one of my players is semi-sick and they feel sick. Well, they feel sick, and we don't want and they might cancel an appointment they have. And if that happens, they would want to play. So we would then play, and if not, we don't. And this would have been the last session before our Halloween session where we play in person. So either I now get the time to prepare them for that Halloween session, or I don't get the time to prepare them, right? Either I don't, or I... Also, the thing is, I've been playing again in the German Prime League. That is a League of Legends Pro Amateur League, not Pro. And yeah.
How did it go?
We are currently 2-2.
Okay, no, that's...
We should have been 4-0. We lost a game because one of our players had computer problems and couldn't play correctly, and you're not allowed to switch out players. And we lost another game because of a communications error on our side, and we should have won that game. If that communications error didn't happen, we would have won the game.
Oh, I see. Yeah, but something like this, it happens.
Yeah, it happens, and that's totally okay, but it's still a bit...
One question real quick. Because we are in Spooktober, the spooky season.
Yeah.
Did you have anything special prepared for your Halloween event?
This episode goes out before the Halloween one, so I don't want to say that what I have prepared, but I asked my players if we want to play a Halloween one-shot as a way to bring everybody back into person play and have fun, or if we want to continue the campaign. They said they want to continue the campaign, so I complied. But maybe there will be something that is slightly different from what the campaign is normally to get a little bit of spooky season.
Nice.
A
little
bit.
Spooky spice.
Yeah, a little bit of spooky spice.
That's good.
Why did you say spooky spice?
I don't know.
Okay, it's spooky spice.
Just the chaos, you know? People are used to it by this point. If they listen to us, listen to even more than one episode, they are used to the chaos now. I think so. Yeah, spooky spice it is. And yeah, I actually have something similar planned. But because in one campaign, the 7-player group in Icewind Dale, 2 players are on vacation right now. So we won't continue the campaign. We voted and we don't want to continue without them. So I offered to run a one-shot, spooky themed, of course, which is happening when this episode drops. So I'm having something interesting planned, which we will talk about later, I think, regarding the monster I sent you. Because I figured I got the Tome of Beasts from Cobalt Press, and in that was a stat block which just hits the point perfectly what I wanted to try. Basically, the monster is just multiple arms and hands beneath a flowing robe.
Because if you want to creep out your players, use hands.
Yes, the more, the better to creep out someone. If someone has a twisted knot of hands and arms as their face, it's always a good recipe. And basically, this monster tries to, or harvests energy from people and makes them addicted to it, and then just leaves the village or the persons that they harvested just to die from withdrawal. So yeah, they follow a path of destruction basically without having actual destruction. And yeah, I still need to prep some legendary actions, some lair actions, and to prepare the whole mansion for this thing, which is basically one huge prison cell or twisted game thingy where this creature plays with the players. So yeah, I hope it will be spooky enough. Or let me rephrase that. I hope I will be able to convey the spookiness good enough to my players to get it that spooky that I want it to be.
Every time someone talks about spooky stuff, Travis Willingham shudders in his sleep.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Damn.
Something else we also should talk about. Critical Role is bringing out their first D&D campaign book, and not setting book, but actual campaign from level 3 to 12.
And it is set in Exandria, I think, right?
Yeah, it is set in Exandria.
I've read many theories because there's a blue tiefling kind of person on the cover.
Yeah. There's a blue orc on the poster. Yes.
Yeah.
We all know.
Yeah, it's definitely not Fester. No. So yeah, shall we get into it?
Yeah, but first, a message from our sponsors.
Hello everyone, I am Oliver Redboots. I am one of the co-hosts of RodInFlagons, and would you like to not die? Is not dying out there adventuring around the realms kind of on your higher priority list?
Not dying is underrated. I don't know if you've tried it. I imagine you have tried it, but not dying is good.
10 of 10 would recommend.
Yes.
So if not dying is on your radar, and you would also like to adventure, and you'd like to maybe learn a thing or two about the adventuring lifestyle, where to go,
How to stay alive,
learn about monsters,
learn how not to die,
find out other funny ways that adventurers have died,
while still staying alive,
learn what is valuable loot and what is not valuable loot,
that you can use while you're alive,
and all sorts of other things, come on and over and listen to RodInFlagons. We will we'll do our best to make sure that you hit the road well prepared to, well, what Swan said.
to not die.
So listen to us every week, RodInFlagons, everywhere you get your rodcasts. Thank you very much.
As a reminder, don't die.
The EcoPunk 2044 pre-order Kickstarter is live. EcoPunk is an environmentalist TTRPG that draws from the noir, cyberpunk and solarpunk genres, tells stories of a near future world gripped by ecological crisis and all its evils. We can't return to what was, but there is a tomorrow still worth saving. Become a punk, hone your skills, transform the mind, augment the body, take up arms and fight for that sliver of hope. There's 2 weeks left to order your print or digital copy of EcoPunk 2044 on the Kickstarter. Download the game rules for free from itch. Links in the description.
And with that, we welcome you back into the episode. Today we are talking about progression.
What does that mean?
That would be the first question I have for you right away.
Oh,
if you don't
okay.
mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, what exactly is progression?
It can mean a lot of things, especially, for example, in a class-based system like D&D or D&D 5e. Progression is progression through your character's class.
Mm-hmm.
A fighter from level 1 to 20, that's a progression. Or you could go in story. For example, you could argue that the first threat your players need to face is a local threat. The local village is being attacked by bandits. While the last threat they face is a world-dooming apocalypse dragon. That's progression in threat. There is a progression in character. Character development is also part of progression. It's also a type of progression for me. So yeah, progression is basically how you get from a figurative speaking point A to a figurative speaking point B. And especially important is how do you make it look realistically to your players. Or not realistically, but good to your players, right?
How to make it feel organic kind of thing.
Yeah,
right?
It feels weird if it happens in steps, right? You go in a direction, then you go up, then you go straight again, then you go up, then you go straight. For example, in a class system, right? Progression is in a stairway. You are at level 1, at some point you level to level 2, then you wait, then you do 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, right? This problem that is more or less only a staircase. Is that
Exactly.
good? That's debatable.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's good or bad. It has pros and cons. But what you can do to counterpart or complement that staircase progression is have a line progression with your story. So you have to kind of counterfeit it to the staircase thing where it goes right through the middle, through the middle of the staircase, more or less. So on day 1, in Adventure 1, they may be fighting goblins. In Adventure 2, they may be fighting goblins and a goblin mage, although they are still the same level. So it feels a bit more, there is a little more progression, and then they level up. Then they face enemies that are low tier for their class level, for example. And then it just keeps getting higher within the enemies, for example. Or the story beats they encounter are first within a small village, then the region as a whole. It has to go gradually with the story if the class or the character progression is not as gradual or more staircase-like, I think.
Yeah.
So I have if we take D&D now for an example, I would have the question: how often or in what type of interval do you usually level up your players? And do you use XP or milestone?
Milestone, all the way. I don't like tracking XP for my players. I obviously make sure that it makes some kind of sense. But really it's just, yeah, this fits. Then that's it. The thing is, I level up my players after session 1 or 2 to level 2. If we start at level 1 at least, right? I'm gonna go from level 1 because all of the D&D campaigns I've started so far have been level 1. I currently level them up to level 2. I try to get through the first 3 levels rather quickly because some people only get their subclass at level 3. Because when you choose a class, at least how I build characters in D&D, I choose a subclass, not even a class. I choose which subclass I want and which type of build of character I want, right? And that subclass is way more important in that flavor to say, like, okay, I want to be a noble talksman. I want to be someone that is in the high courts, that's talking to the aristocrats of this country. Then this question becomes, do I become a bard? Do I become a rogue? because both of those have good subclasses for that. I don't want magic, bam, I go rogue. And then I also already have the subclass. Maybe Inquisitor, Mastermind work great for that. So I already have the subclass chosen, but I don't get it at level 1. So I try to get my players to level 3 as quick as possible so they can get the subclass they want. So they can actually have a character build. Because after you have your subclass, I believe, you have an actual good character build. It feels, for the first time, it feels rounded. It feels like there's nothing missing at that point. Right?
Exactly.
There are abilities that come on top of that and some get stronger, but you have a rounded build at that point.
The basis is already complete for your character concept.
You can now build the tower on that basis.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm gonna just go throw that question back to you. Is there a big difference to my style?
Not really. I actually think none at all. I usually, when I homebrew my campaigns, I usually start them off at level 3 already. So you don't have to quickly level up through anything, and it feels more organic to start with a whole character concept basis already, which you then can build upon. And then I try to keep it kind of the same way, to look at XP and use it as a guideline when I should level up my players. I don't specifically track the XP, but I use it as a guideline to see, okay, they fought these and these and these monsters, and that would usually level up, but it doesn't fit in the story right now. So I wait and try to get to that point as quickly as possible from there on, but try to keep it organic, if that makes any sense. That's usually, it takes about somewhere between 3 and 10 sessions, I think, to level up in my games.
It depends
depending on the story segment and how quickly they rush through it or not, or if they take time and if they follow anything else or any subplots there are in or anything like this. But somewhere around 5 to 6 sessions usually.
I mean, the thing is, for me, especially when you get to higher levels, from the beginning level, whichever point that may be, you level up quicker than later in the game.
Yeah.
That's when you look at the XP, that only makes sense because you need more XP. And I think the XP you gain when you go up 1 CR is less than the XP you would need to go up 1 level. So it's supposed to take longer, right? And it's normal, right? And for me, the thing is, I pay attention to one thing in particular because I have learned one thing. We talked a lot about in other episodes about resources your players want to have, right? Resources your players can use, like equipment, like abilities. And abilities are a very big thing because I want to make sure that they have all the stuff they have at this level, at that point that they are, down. And then I'm gonna throw on the next thing, because then I know that they can handle that new thing.
Exactly.
If they level up too fast, you risk them being overwhelmed with the stuff they have. So, what I also don't want is them to feel like there's no progression, right? Coming back to the main topic, progression. One big thing for me in leveling is my players ask me after every session if they level up.
It's just a usual question.
It's a joke for us, right? It's a joke
Yeah.
for us that we make it funny. It's not so meant to be serious, but at some point I'm gonna say yes, and my players love it. They go, nice, let's go. Then we quickly level up the characters for the last 10 minutes of the session. All good. The thing about it is, I always need to find the perfect moment, right? That's what you have to do as the GM, deciding when to level up players. You need to find the perfect moment. That perfect moment for me is especially when I feel like they have the stuff down, that when they are comfortable in that build they have right now, when it feels like they need a level up. So for me, the thing in that regard is I never want my players to feel like, oh, we don't level up again. Like, it's been 7 sessions and I want to level up, right? I want them to feel the anticipation of a level up still, and not like, yeah, it's normal that we don't get a level up. It's hard to explain. You need to feel the room. You need to know you can't make it too early, but you also can't make it too late. You can't pull that out for eternity. You need to find a moment at that point where as soon as your players feel like, well, it's been long since we leveled up, that's a point at which you should look for a way to level them up.
Exactly.
Because they are gonna feel a little bit bored if they get nothing new out of their abilities.
It's kind of like finding the perfect situation to end a session, but on a bigger scale. You have to feel when everybody is kind of frustrated with the way it is going right now, or it takes too long. So you need to find a way to break it off or increase the level of your players. And that can be a hard task, I think, sometimes. But it comes with practice.
It's a hard task.
Comes with practice.
And like
one thing
most of the things do.
Yeah, obviously. But one thing I just remembered why I like to start off my players at level 3 already is not just because of the basis of the character concept they already have, but they aren't so fragile anymore. Sometimes it is hard not to kill the players at level 1, especially in some pre-written modules. The module I ran was Icewind Dale, the first encounter that is suggested, usually for level 1 characters, against a CR3 enemy with over 100 hit points, a multi-attack, and magical teleportation abilities that enters TPK level real damn quick. I think this dude has a to-hit bonus of 7 or 6 or something. It is quite difficult sometimes to keep the players alive in the early levels, which is one reason I try to increase the level as quick as possible and as quick as it feels natural to, let's say, unlock the fun part of the monster manual, if you want to say it like that, because the progression is not just for the characters and the story, but it is also for your DM tools. Those progress with the story along the same path, basically.
Yeah, I do.
Anyone who listens. Yeah, okay. So I'm not just rambling and making no sense at all.
We're always rambling. That didn't change.
Yeah, that didn't change, but sometimes we make sense.
We actually make sense.
Yeah, that's a good one. While we are on the topic of outside of the game progression, let's come back to the story progression path we were talking about. We talked a lot about the class progression or character progression, and now let's come back to the story one. Do you have any, or how do you implement reasons why the characters are now facing this problem? Usually. So it turns a bit into a pacing and progression question more than just progression, because that is one reason I find really difficult. If I give the players a problem, what is the reason why they can't just go to the City Watch and let them handle it, especially in the lower tiers?
Shall I tell you something?
Yeah.
Just last session, they exactly did that in my game.
Okay.
I have had, in my Phantoms of Chaos game, I've had the Bandit Uprising and some weird, mysterious...
Das weiß ich leider nicht.
That's my Alexa. Well, again, in my Phantoms of Chaos game, I have the Bandit Uprising plus the red mysterious ghost stuff. They chose one of the two paths and said the other one, we just push that away. That's now a path the military will deal with, and we won't anymore because we don't want to anymore. And yeah, well, now that problem is more or less gone for them. I won't bother them with it anymore. It may come back at some point, obviously, but the most important part for me was, I think especially for me, it's simple that I want them to feel like they are progressing in a story, but I can never in that moment say they are progressing, because they made a decision to basically leave off the main storyline they've had since the beginning. Maybe my players forgot, and if they're listening to this, hey guys, remember first session where you fought bandits, which hinted at the point you were in 4 sessions ago. My players are probably all in shock right now, but they've had progression. Simple progression is the progression we had so far is they've met bandits in session 1, got a note from them that said, bring this loot to this location. They have been in that location. That alone shows them a story progression, right? They've went from place A to place B with having to face people up a command structure of bandits. Yeah. I don't think I'm answering your question because it's hard to answer that question for me.
Exactly.
Generally, for how to make them face a problem, don't is an answer. It's not a good answer, I would say. But the problem is, if you would ask me, how do I make sure my players deal with this problem, is make that problem unavoidable, right? The thing is, okay, why don't they go to the City Watch in the next town? Well, because they can't. That would take time. Like, my players were like, okay, we have hostages in this old ruined castle or something. We can't get the military or the City Watch. We need to do this ourselves. That's how I kept them at that problem. So the biggest thing for me is make the problem unavoidable for them in whatever way, shape, or form you manifest unavoidable. That can be time, that can be that the villain won't let them leave until they confront them or something. There are many, many different ways, and you have to make that decision what you do based on what you have on hand. But I think the thing is for progression in a story is, just try. The simple way is by escalating the threat level.
Mm-hmm.
They face a local threat, bandits that attack a town. They face a bigger threat, something that threatens an entire region. They face a bigger threat after, something that threatens an entire country or two countries. Then they face a threat that threatens the whole continent, then the whole world, then the whole multiverse, right? You can escalate this however you want in every direction. That's a simple way of how I said it's a very simple way, but you can escalate the threat in any way. That shows progression for them. So yeah, escalating the threat is a good way. You can also do that by fame, escalating fame and renown. Your players are unknown. They are known by a few NPCs. They are known by a few big NPCs. They are known by a large number of simple NPCs. They are known by a large number of big NPCs. They are known by everyone. That's something that you could tie even to the threat level, but it's a different way of showing progression. But I think the most important part about progression is showing it to your players, either in game mechanics or in game itself. You need to show your players that they are progressing. You need to show them that it's what they are doing is worth it, that what they are doing actually means something.
A TTRPG as a DM is always about basically giving players opportunities for doing what they want, basically. But I think tying into progression, don't shy away from giving your players opportunities to fail as well. It isn't, or you don't have to make the players be invincible or succeed at everything. That shows some progression as well, character-wise. Not just stat-wise or story-wise, but the character itself should be progressing through the campaign as well, I think. Some personal progression. And if the fighter, for example, is sent into a fight pit or is forced to fight for his life, and he manages to survive, but just because of the mercy of the individual who is hosting this fight pit. It gave him the opportunity for success and failure, and he failed. This progressed his character in some way, shape, or form. Because if he's, for example, a champion, he is maybe the pinnacle of human ability to fight, but he still lost. What does his character make out of this experience? This is something you can toy with as well as a DM. Using some opportunities for success and failure in a character development way to progress the character and the story at the same time.
With that, the thing obviously becomes it's a lot of the player needs to buy into this. They need to be on board with this, more or less, right? You beat them in the fighting ring. Now the question becomes, what does the player make of this? What does the player character make of what does your character do now? Because you as the DM might have a plan. Well, now becomes an arc of training to beat this other champion. But the player might say, nah, my character is probably gonna be very depressed now and stop fighting altogether. You as a DM have no control over this, right? That's your player's thing. But that's the beauty of it as well. Player controlled progression or player controlled development. The player can control that. The player can decide what's the development they want to take, which is the best thing they can do. They choose what they want to do, and that's showing progression in and of itself to them. You gave them an opportunity to develop something, and they took it and progressed something. And then you as a DM can play into that, like you said, right? You can give that character a special ability or allow them to multi-class into something different. For example, one of my players died, or not died, but nearly died on the battlefield once. And the level up he took after that, the next time they leveled up, was Shadow Magic Sorcerer. Because it basically that him dying or nearly dying on the field awakened the shadow magic powers he had. And that's the type of progression he played. He developed something different. And I played into that by giving him the opportunity to multi-class and opening up the sorcerer for him. Because in my game, you can only multi-class if you give me an explanation of why. because I don't want you to just be a wizard and then take a level of fighter because you feel like it.
Yeah, you don't want to make absurd, basically. It is not, it's fun one for one-shots and stuff, that's fine, but in a campaign, it just feels unnatural if you just out of the blue know how to fight with a sword. If you're a mage in the first hand, you need to have some kind of progression for that as well.
Yeah.
And in most of my games, most multi-class options, I think, are easier to explain than especially the sorcerer. Because sorcerers are kind of born with their abilities to some extent. And this can be hard to explain why they should be able to multi-class into this. But especially Shadow Sorcery is a good way. Or I think Divine Soul could have worked in the same situation your player was in. That's some progression that I could see as well.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, that's a player way of progression, right? Players can help you as the DM with that. As always, talk to them. How do they want to progress their character? My players have always some idea already for what their next the next step of their character should look like, and asking them what kind of progression they want to see is a good way for me to find something and then put my little evil DM twist on it, obviously. I obviously put a little twist on it, and
you have to. It's just the natural way. It's
just today, a player came to me and said that because in that campaign we have sometimes it feels like progression is not there because it is hidden. That's something we can talk about in a bit. Hidden progression, right? The thing about it is he didn't feel like they were going anywhere, and it was diminishing his fun. So I said, obviously, yeah, let's talk. I want to know why. And then we talked it out. And he was like, I think that my biggest problem is that I never see really what the problem is I should be working with. And I said, okay, well, then I'm going to make that more clear for you. So I made the progression for him now more clearer, right? You ask your players what they want. And then I asked him, well, is there anything you want to see in the near future that could show you the progression? He was like, yeah, this, and this. And I was like, yeah, okay, we can do that. I obviously will change it up a bit so it feels not new to them as well. But obviously I'm going to take up their wish and do what they ask of me. They are my players, right? I think he said that often enough of times, you as the DM are not special. Your players are your equals. They are also at the table. They enjoy the game. Make sure they also do, period. Yeah, so I think the question from that now becomes hidden versus scene progression, right? Because in that game, they have visible progression, right? They've faced bigger threats so far. They've learned a lot of information, but there's a lot of hidden progression that they didn't even know of. I can't talk about it too much, but there's obviously hidden progression in meeting NPCs that will become important later.
Laying the groundwork for stuff.
Yeah, getting infos you don't understand yet is hidden progression.
One thing I like to use, or I would like to try to implement more in my games, is having a big bad who is planning all kinds of weird world-ending shit. But then, as the players get more famous, turn their fame against them. So they get onto the radar of the big bad, who then now tries to stop them, but in a way in which he doesn't reveal himself yet. This is some sort of hidden progression as well, which relates to obvious progression because the threats are getting higher, but the players don't know the reason. They just think it's another quest they were sent on. But the real reason why the quest is there is hidden from them. This is some sort of hidden progression I would like to try to implement a bit more. Because it furthers the theory crafting we talked about in the last episode.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about hidden progression is, like we talked, you need to make it obvious to your players that they are progressing. Because if they feel like they are not progressing, it feels like the game is at a dead end for them. And they are gonna go into a stalemate of not knowing what to do next because they have no idea of what the progression is. So yeah, hidden progression is a powerful tool because you need it, right? There are some things your players still don't understand most of the time, so it's always there. But you need to know when to reveal what parts of that hidden progression, because, well, hidden progression is at the beginning it's empty, but it's completely closed off. Like you could look at it like you have two water bottles you fill. One is the obvious progression they see, and you all the time put water into that if anything happens, right? In progression sense. More danger, more information, more people, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And you have a second water bottle that they don't see. That is also empty, and you fill that as well. But at some point, you lift the curtain a little bit to show them that they have also progressed there, and or put the same amount of water into that obvious bottle as well. It's a weird example, but I just want to say you have two types of progression: hidden and seen progression. Both progress, but for hidden progression, you need to know the moment when to actually reveal that part that you need to reveal.
Yeah,
it adds a lot to the progression.
It does. In general, revealing stuff at the right moment is a huge tool you can use for progressing the story, the characters, the levels, or turn the hidden progression into obvious progressions. It's a huge tool you have to use to make it interesting in the most settings you are playing in. And it's a huge way to turn the pacing around. To mess with the pacing or the timeline the characters have in their head. Most of the time, characters will make some sort of plan for what they have coming in the future and stuff like that. And then just hitting them with a reveal just turns the pacing right on the head. Just not completely negates the plan, but forces them to rethink parts of the plan. This is something fun you can use.
I'm just gonna ask you, what do you do if you feel like you need to make, what do you do if you need to make progression more seen? What do you do to make progression imminent in this next moment you have?
It mostly depends on the situation. But one thing, for example, in big cities, what I like to use is a town crier to give a more complete view of the world, and not just the little area the characters are in right now, which they can see, but something that is going on in the world around them without them influencing it directly, but passively through their actions and whatever happened after they did this, players gave the world around them to progress on. This is one tool I like to use.
Well, that's a stream of information, right? That's one big important part to show them the world progression, what is happening around them. When it comes to progressing them individually, right, as a party, you can always throw street bandits at them. Hate bandits by someone.
Assassins.
Players hate it. If they are the target of something, oh, do they hate it?
Yeah.
Send assassins their way to show them that they've pissed someone off.
And they will go out of their way to find that person.
They will find that person.
Yeah.
And you get them back into the story where you want them. And it's progression because it shows them that they have pissed someone off so much that they actually have a problem now. For example, in one of my games, in my oldest running game where I'm a player, we've pissed off a demi-goddess.
Oh boy. Oh boy. That might not be.
And she's basically described in the setting as she doesn't need to roll dice. She crits every time.
Okay.
She's a god, right?
Yeah.
You don't fight gods. And so when we heard that she is coming to the battlefield we are in right now, oh boy.
Yeah.
We were motivated to get quick done. We were motivated to make progression in that battle because we knew that it would be over soon. We didn't have endless time. And she has sent assassins our way before. It showed that we've actually made a mark on her map, which make it known to your players that the BBEG has noticed them. Or that someone has noticed them in a good or bad way, right? There could also be a street encounter that there's someone, you are the valiant heroes, please come with me, the noble wants to see you. Boom. That's also fun.
Yeah. Or court-martial them could be a way. Excuse me, but here is the invitation or the order to come with us to the King's Hall and explain yourself.
Yeah.
That could be a fun one.
That's a fun one.
And another one is to just make BBEG appear right in front of them. That could be a fun one too.
Yeah.
Like in Curse of Strahd, for example, when Strahd just shows up and taunts the party.
I mean, the thing is, right, how do you hit your characters? Well, no, weird. How do you make your players care? You hit them where it hurts. And that's their character sheets. You don't have to tear them up or anything, but putting their characters in a danger. And that can be either combat, assassins, or telling them, well, you fucked up. Good. Well, now you have enemies. They won't fight you, but they will court-martial you. You have gained the interest of a noble. It's just basically the coin turned on its head, right? You have someone very interested in you and wants to reward you, for example, your player characters. That's when players get invested, when they are involved directly. And if they are as directly involved as a group, that's one of the best ways to show them progression. Right? Yep. If you name the dead mother of one of the players, one of them is gonna be invested, and the rest is gonna be invested because they are invested. But if you hit them as a group organism, they are invested as a whole.
That's why I usually ask my players to come up with a group name for their adventuring party, because it just creates a bond between them, and it gives me an option to hurt them all at the same time. Or if they hear, for example, in some flyers or from a town crier or something, some slander against the group by whoever, who knows, or something bad is being told around them, even if it's a lie, they are bonded together even more, and it shows that they are on someone's radar or did something they shouldn't have done.
I mean, the group name is a whole different thing. Players, please give your groups a name. At some point, I'm gonna ask my group to give themselves a name. First of all, it's not necessarily to get you a name to know you, to put the name into the newspaper of the town. That's a little bonus I get. For me, it's just to address you.
Yeah,
I want to address my players all as one. And it's so easy when having a group name. I understand fully that you don't have to use that name as a group, right? I just want something to address you. A name that I can use. That makes it so much easier than always saying you guys. Sounds not so cool.
You can make some epic speeches with the name of the group. My groups are struggling with epic names. The group I have in Icewind Dale playing right now is called the Bremer Town Musicians, because they are basically all animals, kind of, all play some sort of instrument and come from the town of Bremen in the Icewind Dale. So it makes sense, but to make an epic, interesting speech out of that name can be challenging. And the other group in my homebrew world is from a magic school on the coast. So what are they called? Wizards of the Coast. Players are weird. But you can, it's hard to use this name in an epic way in the fantasy setting sometimes. But if I find a way, it will show progression.
True. Yeah, the thing is about the name, that's just a simple thing. It's good. So the thing, especially when looking at progression, I think another thing, let's say less meaningful progression in terms of it isn't exactly important to the story they are telling, is through the world around them. Like we talked about, right? The world is changing, but you have things changing around you that don't affect you or the way or the path you take. For example, if in my setting, the queen of the country would change, would resign and name a new ruler, then that would be a way to show them that the world is progressing in some direction. But it's not interesting to their story. They don't have any connection to the queen or to the new one, for that matter. It won't change a lot for them, but it might change in the future something. It's laying the groundwork again, right? But it shows them that the world is living around them. And that's one of the things that progression can do. Progression can do a lot of stuff for you. It can show you, it can show your players urgency. It can show them the path they took. It can show them danger, right? It's the danger they face, what they are actually gonna face. It foreshadows, maybe even. It can be used for foreshadowing. You have progressed so far, now you're fighting the general of the BBEG's army. Oh wow, that's a high figure. That's a probably strong opponent, but it also foreshadows the BBEG is gonna be stronger.
Yeah.
That's a fun tool. But you can also progress stuff that isn't really important to the players. The thing about that is obviously you need to regulate how much you actually tell them of it, because while I enjoy giving my players little tidbits of stuff that is not important to them, it can get too much if you do too much.
Yeah, they tend to get lost in small things most of the time, especially if you just mention it in a small sentence where it feels kind of weird and out of place. They will focus on that weird little thing.
Yeah. Okay.
But this is a tool you can use.
Yeah,
that's
what I want to say. When you clutter your players with information or details, anything, like if they're getting lost, progression is the best way to show them where they have to move forward. And I mean progressing one of the strings you have there. Like if you have this bundle of many different information for your players, many different plot hooks or whatever, and they get lost, progress one of them forward. Yeah. Because that is the one that they then will focus on. Because that's the one that's taking action. That's the one that's immediately on their radar. So that's a good way to get your players to do something. Most of the time you don't have to. Most of the time players have an idea of what to do, right? But progression is a progression of a threat in your campaign. And I mean thread, not thread, like the thread, like the story thread.
Needle and thread.
The story thread. If you progress something like that, your players are going to take notice. And if they don't, well, tough luck. I think there's something, Matthew from Abyssal Brews said this on the Wire World Matters. And he said that, well, he has these danger clocks, more or less. And he's going to tick them forward while their players do something. They might stop one of the clocks, but the others are moving. And that's progression, right? The clocks are progressing. Yeah. And your players, as soon as one of the clocks ticks over, something happens. That's showing the progression. And then your players need to react to that danger clock, to that trigger, or to that thing that was triggered by the danger clock. And therefore go into that thread that is linked to that danger clock. And that's progression. And then they have a thread they can progress on. So yeah, just move one of your pieces forward, progress them into a direction that's gonna make your players take action to keep them from paralysis of options, from option paralysis. If they have too many options, you need to make one of them the one you need to move them forward somehow. And that's progression. That's forced progression, right? It's some people say you shouldn't do that. And I agree that when you force progression, it's not ideal, but please, some other DMs just want the game to go smoothly, and sometimes their players just don't do anything. Let them use the tools to make the game move forward.
Yeah, and I think regarding the forced progression shouldn't be done. I think it should, but not every time. It isn't something you should regularly do. Yeah, but within certain parameters like option paralysis, when they are just having too many options, or in their mind they have too many options, and they can't decide anything, you have to force some sort of progression. It doesn't have to be major, but it just needs to ping, basically, one certain story thread or one type of progression you want to take, or give your players the option to take this. You just have to get something on their radar more than anything else. It can be a small, minute detail, but it has to be done to keep the game moving. If you don't do anything like this, the game will not progress at all. It will just grind to a halt, and then you don't have to play.
I mean, this episode showed again that one of, or even the biggest task for me as Dungeon Master is to keep the game from stalling, to keep the game from going into nothingness. Because if my players don't know what to do, they don't do anything. And that's when I think we've lost D&D. Because when we don't play, and that's when you lose. And
the goal is to play.
Yeah, and I make sure that we play. Most of the time, I don't have to do anything about it. My players are going to find a way forward. But if they don't, I move the danger clock forward to keep the game from halting.
Yeah, and one thing is a quick intervention. One tip for new Dungeon Masters: don't be afraid to railroad your players in these situations. Please don't be afraid.
Yeah, but what I want to say is railroading is a hard term, and some people are probably going to scream, "Oh, railroading! He said railroading, it's bad." No, it's not.
It's a tool, basically.
Yeah, the thing is, Niels isn't saying put your players into a train cart and drive the train somewhere, right? Niels is just saying give them a notion to move.
Exactly. Imagine you're sitting at the central station with so many trains they can move on. But they have the free choice where they can move. What I mean is railroad them a bit, is show which trains are leaving next. Yeah. Like in 3 minutes, this train is gonna leave. Get on it or be done with it. you can choose this way, and then you drive this train, but if you don't, the train is gone.
Yeah.
And you don't know if any train like it will be here.
You don't have to
anytime
make
soon.
sure which path they take, right? But you just need to make sure to them that if they don't act, some paths might stop for them to work. You
Exactly.
just need to make them aware that they have to choose a way.
Yeah, they have to move in some way, shape, or form. Even if it's backwards, it's some kind of progression. You just have to keep things moving. Because backwards progression is a thing. Not level-wise, but turning down the scale on which stuff happens can be a good tool to use.
One quick thing I can say mechanical wise for progression, what I just remembered from a discussion I had with someone a week ago. The funniest tool you can use to show simple progression is put your level 15 players against 5 bandits.
Yeah.
It shows them that they have progressed so much since the beginning of their campaign.
Yeah,
If they started at level 1 and are now level 15 and fight bandits, they fought at level 1 and were like, this is a tough fight, and now they don't even have to use a spell slot to, like, the wizard could just punch them with their fist and win, and you're like, wow, okay, well, we've progressed a lot, people. It's fun, but it also shows them that they have progressed, and they have progressed faster than the world has.
Yeah.
Because there are still bandits around.
Not every battle has to be to the death or have to be a struggle for death.
Oh, yeah. Most battles that are to the death are the most boring ones.
Exactly.
It's a different topic for a combat or death episode.
Yeah. And one thing regarding this, actually, I like to use but with monsters. I let them fight, for example, in session 5, let them fight a monster and let them win or try to let them win, but borderline TPK them. And then a few sessions later, maybe one level up later or so, let them encounter the same monster, but a different creature comes in and just one-shots it. And then now you have a monster type of progression in the same way we talked about with the bandits and clerics.
It's threat escalating, right?
Exactly. This is something fun. The expressions on the players' faces when something like this happens, you have to see it. It's just everybody likes it, even the players, most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think
we covered the topic mostly.
We covered the topic in our discussion, yeah.
In our weird discussion way.
I mean, for people especially, I think of 3 things. How do you show progression to your players? When do you need to show progression to your players? And what progression do you show to your players? Those are the 3 questions you need to ask yourself about progression, more or less, right?
Yeah.
And I think especially a deep question you could ask yourself is, what type of progression would fit best, right? That's an more or less obvious question, but think about it a little bit deeper. What type of progression would fit best is not necessarily the type of progression you or your players want, right? The game needs to be fun for everyone, so it should be fun for everyone. A progression that is not fun for everyone shouldn't be taken anyway, but you take think about what progression you actually need and think about how to best show that.
Yeah.
That's the best advice for progression. Really think about what type of progression you want and what you need to have, because you definitely need to have progression in a game, and then how to best showcase it. That's at least how I would summarize what we've talked about.
Yeah, we talked about it in our weird, lengthy, kind of rambling way.
That's normal for us.
But that's just us. And if you're listening to this episode, chances are it's not the first one you listen to. So you know us by this time anyway. So yeah, thank you guys for listening to this episode. It was a pleasure making this with you, Emil.
Thank you. It was a pleasure doing this with you as well.
And hear you on the next one. Have a good one. Bye-bye.